Dan Klatt here. Thank you for joining me for this Operation Greatness podcast. I'm thinking of this as a follow up to our earlier show entitled A Celebration of Love. Today we are talking about the mystery of woman and fragrance of love. Okay, so I'm just as a context, I am the author of the book Experience Unconditional Love this year. That was my first book, and it was how I moved from 10 years in journalism to becoming a coach. And then I also wrote the Unconditional Love workbook, and I have the Unconditional Love CD series as well. The context for our conversation today, the mystery of woman and fragrance of love, is, I guess it was, today's Thursday? I guess it was 2 Mondays ago, I think. I had a 3-hour conversation with a woman. It was a beautiful conversation that we had. And it was like we were really connecting, it felt like. And I don't know, this is part of the mystery of woman, okay? So I'm being present, I'm just flowing with whatever that might be. If anything, maybe it will be nothing. And being in my center, remaining at peace with whatever that, maybe that served its purpose already. Or maybe it will be something magical and tremendous, and it already has been a very profound gift. And so I don't know if anything will happen with that. We'll see. I'm open to what might be there. And then, Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. I love this because the mystery of woman and the fragrance of love is all around you every moment. And it's just a matter of you catching that fragrance. And what does that mean? Being open to it, because it's there everywhere. And so tuning into that, being present with that, being aware of that, feeling that requires you to be out of your head, right? So I'm encouraging you to get out of your head and reconnect with life, with the world, with yourself, with your body, with your feelings, with depth, with passion, with meaning, with genuine connection, and to go deep, all in. And we'll talk about that, I don't know to what degree, in this conversation. I think we'll stay tuned for that, because when I share with you that, wow, that's like among the deepest lessons you will ever know. And by lesson, I mean experiences you will ever know. This is profound. I'm inviting you to open up to and experience as part of the fragrance of love, which really means the depth of love. Because, if you're walking down the street and you smell somebody grilling on their grill, like barbecue sauce, or, I'm a vegetarian, so I would say the smell of a veggie burger on the grill. And yet you might be a steak eater and might think of the smell of, seared whatever, loins or sirloin, whatever the good parts of the meat are. Or ahi or something like that. Is that what it's called? Mahi? I don't know. Whatever the fish is. My sister had that recently for her anniversary, I guess. And, whatever. But if you're just walking down the street and you're hungry and you smell the fragrance, that's very different than eating it, stuffing your face with it, right? So the fragrance of love is very subtle, just as the mystery of woman is very subtle. And yet there's also the time for ravishing the woman, ripping her clothes off. And anyway, this is all very, very dynamic and interesting and flowing and moving, and it's all glorious. It's really about being part of life, connected with life, not your dumbing device, and getting out of your head, because the dumbing device, the source of disconnection, division, disempowerment, discombobulation, that's not where the fragrance of love is. I'm inviting you to reconnect with life right here. And also, by the way, to talk about all of this in our Elevating Humanity as well as our Private Wealth Alliance for Operation Greatness chapter leaders. This is all through operationgreatness.com/elevation. So go there and share your thoughts about everything that we're experiencing here. It's not about just thinking about this. It's not just about relating it to your life. It's about diving in completely. So the contrast here is very important, because the woman I mentioned from 2 Sundays ago, let's just say 2 Mondays ago, we were planning to meet that next Sunday, and she canceled. Okay. She invited, and then, that's when, wait, actually, no, I'm saying this wrong. We were going to meet, I don't know. I'm not getting this right. I think we were going to meet, I remember now. We were going to meet on Sunday, and she canceled that, and maybe that would have been the end of it, but then she called me on Monday, and we had this beautiful 3-hour conversation, and it just seemed so like there was this symmetry, like we just came together is how it felt to me. And yet, so we made plans. No, we had the plans for Sunday, but she canceled them. And then we talked on Monday, and then after that, I suggested next week Sunday, and she was busy then, okay, and she said she would be free this coming Sunday, and I messaged her back and said, is there any other time this week? And I got no response from her, and so I don't know. I mean, she said she would be free this Sunday, but I asked, well, what about something another day? And I didn't hear anything, so right now we don't have anything planned, and I haven't heard back from her since then, so maybe that's the end of it, and okay, if that's what it is, then that's great. And maybe we'll meet Sunday. And yet, so the contrast is, like getting in your head or being part of the flow of life. Like on Monday, did I contact her? Or did she contact me? I guess I contacted someone else, and she responded right away, and we were talking, and we met the next day on Tuesday, and we had lunch together, and we had this really great hike. And that was, that's how I am. I'm just like, I'm not holding back. I believe in fearless love is what I call it. I created a coaching program on fearless love one time. And my other coaching program, conscious ecstasy. That's like phenomenal. Conscious ecstasy, there's another coaching program. And that led to, it kind of like follows the natural evolution. Conscious ecstasy, and then the second stage of that is conscious loving. And then the next part of that might be conscious conception, and then after that, what comes next is conscious parenting, right? And anyway, that's a whole series. And I mean, that's who I am. I'm just like, not hold back at all. Fearless love, because I know that love is who we are and it's how we're meant to live our whole lives. And there's nothing more important, significant, meaningful, juicy, fulfilling, blissful, ecstatic, transcendental than love. So I love that contrast of the one person who knows whether we will even have our first date or meet, and she was more like, I've been hurt before, so I have to wait and we have to become friends and I have to see that you're consistent and trustworthy, that I'm not going to get hurt again. Okay, I understand that. Everybody's been hurt. We've all gone through tremendous suffering, pain, trauma, distress. And, it's how we choose to live. If we're in our heads, if we're in fear, or if we're embracing life and connected with the moment, if we're present, like that was great to connect with this woman on Monday, early evening, I guess. And then Tuesday we met for lunch and we had this beautiful thing. And then on Tuesday someone else liked me. And I contacted her and I suggested that we get together on Saturday. I don't know if that'll happen or not. Anyway, I mean, it's just part of the flow of life. But anyway, so this process that I wanted to give you, because I want you to follow the scent in your life, the fragrance from every relationship you have had, how that essence became part of who you are now. And so you're looking at, I would invite you to explore this yourself, how the person you are now is the sum total of the influences that you have had in your life from the beginning. And I mean, you could look at, the influence of mom and dad and, whatever, and religion and schooling and stuff. All of that has played into who you are. And yet I'm inviting you to take the good. So we're refining that. We're looking at a very specific aspect of this as part of our conversation on the mystery of woman and fragrance of love. I'm inviting you to look at the main relationships that you have had, or the ones that stand out for you as you are exploring this, and to connect the dots here where you are seeing what was the significant gift, the nugget of gold or the fragrance of love within each of the relationships you have had, and how they have become part of you and how they served you, what was the gift within them. So you're seeing, like, if you take maybe the 10 and just write down like what were the most significant 10 relationships you have had. So write down person and then what did that represent for you, except not, I mean, maybe, yeah, it's kind of like, of course you had your breakups, your traumatic relationships, and yet, oh, that reminds me, I forgot to add my traumatic relationship to this list. I think I did not include, I wrote down some notes of, I did this process myself, and I wrote down, I forgot to add the traumatic relationship, what was the gift in that. Anyway, so write down the names of the people you had in relationship, the people you loved, the people you dated, you had some experience with them in a romantic sense, and then But I'm inviting you to see the good that you got from that relationship and how you became a better person as a result of that experience. So that's your exercise. That's what I invite you to do, because I think, you know how it's not the thing that happened to you, it's how you respond to that thing that matters. That's what gives it its power. That's how it is meant to serve you, in fact. I mean, like somebody having a car accident, and maybe they were, they had physical injury from that, and yet that was there to serve them, and it wasn't positive or negative, the wrecking the car. It was neutral, and it's like, are you carrying that? Is the story that you are making up from having experienced that, is it serving you or is it hindering you? In other words, like, yeah, I had to crash because I was destroying myself. I was drunk driving and I was an alcoholic, and I had to experience that. I had to hit that tree as the wake-up call so that I could get control of my life. Or maybe it was just I had to learn to pay attention that when I'm driving, I'm not doing emails on my phone or texting people or paying attention to something other than being present with my car and the road and my surroundings. I mean, so that's like seeing the positive. And your relationships are the same way. There is always a positive reason for each relationship that you have had, and I'm inviting you to recognize the gift within each of your relationships. So write down, like, if you want to go deep and get deep value from this, you can write down all of the people you have dated. I mean, like, I don't know if they're still talking about this, but I remember once where people were like keeping track of their number of people with whom they have had sex. So maybe you want to write down everyone you have had intimacy, everyone you have enjoyed that experience with, and then list every one of them, and then look, I mean, as a starting point for your most significant relationships, and then see what that was for you, how you grew, what from there became a part of you. So this is your work I'm inviting you to explore. And then I'll share this with you some from my own experiences. I just wrote down, follow the scent of your life, because your life is the result of all the interactions you've had with the people you have known who have contributed to the person you have become today. So, for example, the heiress who when her father died, her name was, or his story was, the story of his death was in the Wall Street Journal, and her name was in the Wall Street Journal as part of his family. What I gained from her, many things, many gifts within that, was to give without keeping score. It's okay to give generously as well. In other words, like before I was more like, well, I bought dinner last night. Now I would invite you to, like, I'm going to hold back until you buy dinner this time. It was more like, I felt like it had to be sort of equitable, because I guess I'm naturally a giving person, and people in the past used to take advantage of that, and I felt like I was unappreciated. And yet when I'm being in abundance, generous, it just feels great. And that's when I'm in the flow of life, which is where the fragrance of love is, right here now. If I'm in my head, or if I'm thinking about the past, well, I bought the last 3 dinners. No, then I'm missing the present moment, which is the only place love is, right? I mean, these are obvious things, and yet if I'm focused on worrying about, oh, she didn't call me, maybe she doesn't love me, she didn't respond to my text in 10 minutes. I mean, any of this, all of that's just head stuff, right? Ego, and ego does not know love. If you're in your head, you do not know love. You cannot be connected with love because the ego is only fear. You know that the mind can only hold one dominant thought at a time, and that's either love or fear, right? So which is what you are holding in your being, in your power, in your center? Is it love or is it fear? I mean, like the woman, I just had a few messages with this woman on Monday evening, I think it was, and then we met on Tuesday at noon, and that's how I would choose to live my life. And I understand if somebody has been hurt and, whatever, we've all been hurt. It's a matter of what you do with that hurt. Do you allow that to be what prevents you from experiencing love ever again? I mean, how many hundreds of millions of people have made that choice? I mean, that reminds me of the trend that I have been seeing, which is sad, to say the least, of these beautiful women I'll say met, but I haven't met them in person because they had heartbreak and they decided to prevent themselves from ever experiencing romantic love again because then they're safe. I'm safe in my little can. No, I'm not connected with life. No, I'm disconnected from the world, from joy, happiness, fulfillment, love. But I'm safe at least, so I'm not going to get hurt again. No, I'm not experiencing joy, the pleasure of life. No, I'm not knowing what it's like to be held or to hold someone or to love someone. But I'm safe. That's like checking out of life. That's like watching the Super Bowl from, I don't know if this metaphor makes sense, from like the final row in the stadium where you can't even see where the ball is, and thinking, well, at least I was at the game. Well, no, you weren't. You're not. As opposed to playing, like you being the quarterback in the Super Bowl game. I mean, that's, are you participating in life or are you just checked out of life because oh, somebody might hurt me again because it was so hard. I mean, anyway, that's too common now for people to disconnect from life because they have been hurt. And they don't want to be hurt again because it's so hard. Well, life is hard. It's supposed to be hard. Like lifting weights is not easy. You lift weights because you want to become strong. That's why your life was hard, because you wanted to become strong. I mean, it is that simple. That's a profound recognition that I invite you to pause and reflect and go deep within, because it's how you're connecting with life and not allowing the challenges to hold you back or limit you or keep you stuck or disconnect from life and from love and from fulfillment and meaning and purpose and contribution. Fear, that's what fear does. It holds people back. It keeps people small. It's about being unfulfilled and disconnected from life, from love, from meaning, from family, from community, from God. It's disconnection because of pain. It's staying in pain. It's like, well, this is kind of an interesting visual I got of like I don't know if this is from some movie or something, but let's say the kid who's maybe 3 or 4 years old, and the mom, because the kid maybe is fragile, has some kind of, whatever, could easily break his bone or her bone or something, or bleed to death or whatever. So the mom makes the child like wear a football helmet and padding and maybe just have the eyes visible, and then maybe has like padded, almost like what would be like I forgot what those coats are that like the Eskimos might wear, and like padding, and or like a what do they call that when you go into the what do they call those things anymore anyway? Like the funny farm is the name that comes to mind, but the whatever the quote politically correct way of expressing that, like where they have crazy people, where they have those white suits that you were like they can't even move your arms because you're confined. And I mean, like the parent that wants the child to never be hurt, well, that child is never going to live, and so the child is always hurting because, I mean, how many people, like these beautiful women that I can name a handful of them perhaps, that, or who they just like, oh no, I can't risk it. I can't let anyone be close enough to me to hurt me again. That's somebody who's disconnected from life. They're not living. They're not open to love, so they're tuning out love. They're turning their backs on love, and they're holding back. I mean, I hope this is not describing you. If it is, then you might want to think about, has that served you? Is that appropriate? Or is life about love? The celebration of love. Every moment. Is there any moment where you need to live in your head to protect your heart? Well, that means you're disconnected from your heart, which means you're disconnected from life. To me, it's that simple and straightforward, and there can be no other answer. If you're in that position yourself and you haven't had a relationship for 15 years because it was just too hard, and you have all of this, I mean, like if you have that wound and then you have the layer of scab and a layer of scab and a layer and a layer and a layer and a layer and a layer, then your heart is just imprisoned by all of these walls and blocks and guards and doors and protection, and you're just you're cramped and you're small and you're restricted and it's kind of like if you have this is kind of maybe a ridiculous example, but I got a visual of like, this soda is just so good, I want to protect this soda, so I'm going to put it up here in this container, and I'm going to put this big cap on this container, and I'm going to put a box around this, and I'm going to wall that box and seal it, and I'm going to put it on the top shelf so that it will always be there, and I will, but then the soda, I mean, life is, because the soda isn't going to keep, right? It's going to go bad. Well, if you're walled away in your little coffin, that's what that is, right? Disconnected from life, from love, from people, because somebody might hurt me. Well, then you're just walling yourself off from life. You're imprisoning yourself, living in bondage, and instead of trying to protect yourself from hurt, you're keeping that hurt alive instead of working through it. How is that ever in alignment with the flow of life, which is movement, which is like falling off the horse and getting back up on the horse? And maybe you'll fall off a second and a third and a fourth time, but you'll be riding the horse and you'll be stronger and you'll be moving the horse in the direction that is taking you where you want to go. And where could that be other than love, to more love? I mean, is it possible to get more love by walling yourself off from any love? And yet, how many people were doing that, maybe without even thinking about it or recognizing it because it was so painful? So what are they doing? It's like they're walling off that pain, which means keeping it alive and keeping it very present in their lives, because that's all there is now, is that pain, because I've walled myself off. I've barricaded myself from the world because I don't want to get hurt again. So that means I'm just experiencing only that hurt. I mean, all of this is so logical, and yet how many people were there living their lives that way because they lost touch with what truly matters, which is love, which is connection, which is giving. Like this woman I mentioned, I mean, she was very generous, and I learned to give without keeping score and to be generous. And I learned how beautiful it is to have bouquets of flowers that are fragrant and beautiful, and to just give them to people because it's an act of love. It's a gift of love, an act of service. And it's just so wonderful to have fresh, fragrant flowers like on the dining room table, and where you can smell it when you walk in the house, and when you can see it as you're anywhere walking by, or to have it by the bedroom, by the bed. And that's just one example of the gift from one person. And also her passion, like I love this. It's really about integrity. See, these are the examples that I want you to do in your list of what you have gained, how you became a better person through the people you have dated or loved. She was a plant-based person, and she was in integrity about this. This is what I love about her, because as I was getting to know her, I asked if she minded whether I put Parmesan cheese on my salad that I was eating while we were having lunch one day. And she was kind of like, you're responsible for the whole industry of torturing and murdering cows. And I was like, what? That seemed very extreme to me. And yet later I realized this is how much she is in integrity. Because it is true that the way we raise cattle and chickens and meat, any animals, is not conscious. It's not humane. It's, the living conditions is unacceptable. It's unconscionable. And yet anyone who buys meat is supporting that system. And I wasn't thinking of myself as being a crime or party to that crime by eating cheese. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm a Wisconsin boy at heart. And so I do like cheese. I don't drink milk. I don't eat eggs. I don't eat meat. And I like cheese. I don't eat it. I don't really buy cheese. But if I'm eating a sandwich and it's there, I'll have cheese put on it, or I like to have pizza. And I guess, anyway. So I'm incongruent with something that matters to me. And I learned that from her, from seeing her passion. I love that level of passion and integrity. So that's just one example. And then the doctor from the former Soviet Union, I learned aesthetics from her, like the beauty of having candles and having the candle in and around mirrors, because then that just accentuates the beauty of the candle. And the aesthetics is aesthetics is a branch of philosophy. And I learned that appreciation through her, and you could say extending that to art. And the softness of a candle, how peaceful it is, how beautiful, how mesmerizing it is. And the dance, the sacred dance of the masculine and the feminine, that is such a beautiful gift and dance. And it was through her that I learned that. And also just how there can be ecstasy in a cup of coffee. She had this great coffee maker, and it was just so beautiful to go up there and to get that anytime and just enjoying the simple pleasures of life. And oh, wow, Turkish coffee. Oh, I love that. And I learned there's so many gifts and treasures that we get from the fragrance of love from each meal. That sounds a little, I'm just playing on the word fragrance, like the fragrance of the barbecue or the Thai food or the chai tea. There's so much that we're getting from all of that, right? Like the German architect, how beautiful orchids are in the shower. And the orchids love the steam from the shower, the mist, and the simple luxuries like heated floors in the bathroom. That is such a beautiful gift. I love that. And also how fresh it is to turn off the heat in even winter and to be so cozy under the blankets and warm. And how much better I sleep with the cool room. All of these things are just, this is what I'm inviting you to see, how every relationship you have had has been a treasure for you. Like the Italian lover, I had my dawning of awareness through her. I learned the 5 Tibetans yoga process, which I still use to this day, and I love it. And it's such a balanced practice. I learned to come into the body and how deep the body is. And this is what I mentioned before, like I wanted you to stay tuned to this, because I learned, you could say this is a tantric practice, and absolutely it is. When you can connect so much more deeply when you're having that intimate connection, and when it's not about the sensation of it, when it's about the sensitivity of it, where like you can feel, I'll say it this way, moving 1 millimeter closer. And I think you can fill in the gaps to know what I'm talking about. Each millimeter, you have to wait until you're invited to move that 1 millimeter closer. Let's just say that's as close as I've ever experienced any two people being able to commune with each other. To wait until you're invited to come closer. That is the level of intimacy and connection and love I really would love for you to know. And where you make an appointment, and it might be 2 hours, it might be 3 hours, and that some of the most memorable experiences of my life. Let's just put it that way. And I want you to know that. level of sensitivity and awareness in your body and of yourself. I want you to know that. It's so far removed from the stereotypical wham bam, thank you ma'am, and like 5 minutes and you're done. And it's like, no, like the flame, the candle flame, just connecting with the flame, and you can connect with the lover that way. It's so beyond words, and yet so magical and profoundly, exquisitely, ecstatically beautiful. Or the surgeon I dated, the art of spontaneity. This was one of the most fun drives I had. We were looking for an old hot springs, like an old resort that had hot springs in it. And we knew that you maybe had to drive down a very bumpy road for, 10 miles, or if I don't remember how long, 15 miles, and how far. And, you maybe had to climb over, maybe dilapidated ruins to get to it. But it just seemed like a great adventure. And that kind of, that's like being open to life again, right? Being part of the fragrance or the currency of life. And also the sensitivity of genuinely feeling and caring for all life. That makes sense for a surgeon to be that way. But I remember, she's driving and she sees a tarantula crossing the opposite side of the road, and she thinks, oh, I wonder if we should stop and save it. And there's not much traffic on the road at this time. And this was me coming more, I didn't have that appreciation of the mystery of woman at that time, or the caring of life that she had. I wasn't aware of that until this happened. She wanted to pull over. I think she did pull over, but she was wondering, should we stop and help the tarantula to, be careful? And I was kind of the tarantula's probably okay. And so she pulled over, and she was going to help the tarantula, but I talked her out of it. And then she saw another car come from the other direction and kill the tarantula. And then she was really sad and crying. And I was responsible for that by not having that same level of appreciation of the fragrance of love. So I learned that by going through this and appreciating the mystery of woman and the fragrance of love. Or the Japanese lover, she spent her time traveling around, going from seminar to seminar to seminar around the world. And I learned the power of mantras like Nam Kwanzion Botsats, or the power of words like, I love this. You can just feel this. So receive this gift yourself, okay? Actually, let me give you the mudra first. This is what I also learned from her. If you're watching this through operationgreatness.com/elevation, I'm doing the mudra that she gave me, which is just so beautiful. It's like the lotus flower. And this is like a profound gift of unconditional love. If you're watching this, you're only watching this if you're seeing, this is part of our Operation Greatness chapter leader Private Wealth Alliance through operationgreatness.com/elevation or /leader, operationgreatness.com/leader. I'm giving you this mudra that's just so beautiful, and feel this, receive this, receive this, breathe this in directly into your heart. This is something that I learned, or this is a gift that I received as part of the fragrance of love from this Japanese woman who just her whole life was like self-help seminars or spiritual seminars, actually. So receive this fully. And then the words, like the Japanese, if I'm just casually saying I love you, I would say suki desu. But if we were having a romantic dinner and I really wanted you to feel how much I love you, I would say watashi wa anata ga. Let's see, let me say that again, because I haven't said it in a while, is the thing. Watashi wa anata ga suki desu. Watashi wa anata ga suki desu. Do you love that? Watashi wa anata ga suki desu. Watashi wa anata ga suki desu. You just feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love. Watashi wa anata ga suki desu. Watashi wa anata ga suki desu. Suki desu. See, life is about love. Suki desu. I love you. I love you. I love you. See, that wasn't hard, right? For you to receive love. That wasn't hard. You did it. You receive love. This guy is giving me all this love here, and it's unconditional. It's because you are. Because you are. By the simple fact you are. You say it as I am. Because I am, I deserve love. I am worthy of love. I have so much love within me. It's just waiting to be given, to be shared, to find someone. And this is where that disconnect was. Like those women I mentioned, the very beautiful women who are just totally closed off from love. That means they're bottling up that love within them like the river needs to flow. The love is there to flow. And if you're damming that, if you're not allowing it to flow, then that river is mighty and it carries very strong, powerful current. And if you're damming that, if you're blocking that flow, if you're saying, no, I cannot allow anyone to love me because I might get hurt again, that's damming the river, that's blocking the flow of love, which you are. And that energy, that power, that current is very strong, and it's hitting against that dam, and that current has to come out in other ways. So where does that go? The word is dis-ease, for that when the current, when the energy, when the flow is blocked, it comes out in other ways like upset, dis-ease, turmoil. It's not in alignment with who you are, because you are the instrument for love in the world. I say you are God's gift to the world, and you are God's instrument for miracles in the world. And yet if you're blocking that flow, ultimately you're blocking God. How is that ever okay? How is that ever appropriate? How is that even possible to do? Because, like the dam, the water is trying to keep flowing, and if the water is blocked, well, it builds up and builds up and builds up, and eventually it overflows the dam, even if it's a well-constructed dam. Or like the Hoover Dam, where they allow a little of the water to flow through and then it powers an electric plant. At least the water is still moving. That's kind of like saying, well, you can be my friend, but you can't be my lover, because then you're too dangerous, because then I might start to care about you. And that's like allowing too much of that current through the hole. in the dam or the controlled release of the water. You see how powerful this is because of how necessary and vital the flow of love in your life is? I mean, who are the least happy people? They're the ones who wall themselves off from others. I mean, I got a visual of like the cranky old man who, all he does is complain or bitch or moan. Or the woman, I mean, I had two great aunts who they never married, and they were sort of like the cranky old women who would just sit there, smoke cigarettes all day, and I think they lived together, and that was their whole world, was each other. And they spinster is that the, I don't know, is that the woman or the man? I forgot, but I think it's the woman. But that's not aligned with nature. That's not who you are. You are a source of love. You are a wellspring of love. And that's how I choose to live my life, seeing myself as the wellspring of love. Because to me, that's so beautiful, because love flows out of me, and I like when I don't even keep track of how much I get back. I mean, no, because it's about giving, having so much love, being so abundant, being so natural. I mean, like the sun shining. I feel like each of us is here. I know we are here to shine our light as brightly as the sun. And the sun doesn't say, well, you didn't love me back, you didn't thank me, you didn't acknowledge my beauty and value and worth. No, because that would only be from ego, right? How could it be anything other than ego? If somebody were, let's just say, that shallow or that surface level, because the flower doesn't need you saying, you didn't acknowledge me, you didn't tell me how beautiful I am or how smelly my fragrance is, how good I smell. You didn't love me. No, that would be only ego, and the ego is the opposite of love. If you picture a spectrum or a percentage scale from 0 at the bottom to 100 at the top, where 0 is 100% ego and 0% love, and 100% at the top is 0% ego and 100% love, where are you on that spectrum? Do you think Jesus ever asked somebody to thank them or to appreciate them? Of course not, because it's about giving abundantly, freely, generously, genuinely, completely. And that is how we are here to live our lives, because Jesus is that example of 100% love. And I call that 100% open to God. Each of us is here to be that wellspring of love in the world. You're here to be that light dispelling the darkness, to shine your light as brightly as the sun. Notice how all of this came out of just me reflecting on what I gained from the Japanese lover. And yes, in a relationship, it is, well, is it? That's a good question to ask. I invite you to ask that question. Let's talk about that in the Private Wealth Alliance through OperationGreatness.com/elevation or /leader. Leader is the better way to go there directly, but they reach the same place. Let's talk about that in our community. Do you need to be 50-50 where each of you is giving as much as the other? I don't think I've ever had a relationship where I received as much as I was given. I think I'm naturally the giver. And the women, so maybe balance for me is like me giving 70% and her giving 30%. And that's probably fine. It works. I've had beautiful connections, as I've been talking about here. And I guess, so what I'm saying is, I wrote the book on unconditional love, experience unconditional love this year. And so it's about giving unconditionally, because that's from love and not needing anything in return at all, or any acknowledgement or any, because I love myself, and so I don't need that validation that I matter, that I'm worthy, because I validate myself. I know I am worthy for the simple fact that I am. Because I am alive, I deserve all the love I want. And really what that means is I have so much love within me to share. And I guess if there is a woman in my life whom I can love, then that's beautiful, and I love that. And yet I have to hold that back myself, because she has not reached 100% openness to love. She has some degree of ego. And like if she's walling herself off to protect herself from being hurt, then she's largely in ego, or 100% in ego, which means there's no room for love, so she's blocking the love. So that's the play of life. That's that flowing of the currency, where the water, some of it is allowed to go through the dam. How are you relating to all of this yourself? I invite you to do that exercise where you're writing down the relationships you have had, and you're seeing the gifts within each of these relationships, how you have become a great person as a result of the gifts you received from those relationships. I had a few more on my list here, so let's just continue this conversation. And I realize we're probably already done talking, because everything that this gift of this conversation was meant to be for you probably has already been. And yet let's just see where maybe there's a few more complementary insights that unfold here. Like I wrote down the first model I dated, the Native American, how powerful we are as children of God, you might say, or as conscious creators. I saw how powerful we are. And yeah, this is actually very beautiful as well, because we are transmitters. Like she and her brother used to connect. Like she went from Sedona to New York City, like after the World Trade Center was destroyed. She went to New York City and her brother was in England, like London, I think. And because they have this connection, she's like a medicine woman, and they have this connection so that she could help balance the turmoil in New York City after the World Trade Center was destroyed, because she needed to be there on the earth at that time in that area to bring some love and balance the fear and anger and upset and distress in that area. That's how powerful you are. You have so much more power than you can ever even comprehend. I just did the first of 3 videos exploring that. That's my podcast called Winning the War for Humanity. Very, very important life transformational message in there. That's part 1. And part 2 is Winning the War for the Soul of Humanity. And part 3 is Winning the War Within. So like all of these people I mentioned who were blocking the flow of love, imprisoning their hearts in this coffin, disconnected from life, from love, from the world, from pain, then causing themselves to live in constant pain and suffering and to block off that flow like the dam. Anyway, those people, I would recommend especially that they do that podcast, Winning the War Within. Anyway, all my podcasts are at operationgreatness.com/podcast. And yet we can talk about all of this in our Private Wealth Alliance for Operation Greatness chapter leaders through operationgreatness.com/leader. So I learned this firsthand from the first model I dated, the Native American medicine woman. How everything is sacred and how we can connect with the earth. I think of all of us as connected anyway. I think of us as like white blood cells, and we're here on the planet to serve Gaia, Mother Earth, Mama G, and everything is sacred. Everywhere you walk, you are walking on sacred ground. I developed this appreciation out of my interaction, my love romance with this woman, this Native American medicine woman. She was also the first model I dated. And lastly, the woman who turned down George Clooney after attending the Oscars, I learned the gift from her, or part of the gift from dating her, was that you cannot hurry that intimate connection. I turned her down because I wasn't in the right place for that. It felt hurried to me, and it was not. I'm not really into that, like, wham bam, thank you ma'am, 5 minutes and it's over. No, I don't want that, because it means so much when you have intimacy, because it's the deepest form of connection there is, and it's sacred. And we had not developed to that point, and it's okay to say no. Obviously, it's appropriate when it doesn't feel aligned, then it's not right. And, honor that, of course. Honor your boundaries, of course. And that's an important part of that dance. It's everything in life is like breathing in and breathing out. Are you breathing in now, or are you breathing out now? That's part of the flow that we've been talking about here as part of the fragrance of love, and acknowledging and honoring and revering and cherishing the mystery of woman. Life is that dance. Life exists this moment, right here, now. And so, like those people blocking off themselves from love or holding back because of fear, that's not in the balance. That's in the head instead of the heart. That's in ego instead of in love. That's fear is the opposite of love. Your mind can only hold one dominant thought at a time. That's either love or fear. So where are you? Are you open fully to love? Are you halfway between love and fear? Are you mostly in fear because you were hurt so many times that you became desensitized or numb to love? And maybe that's all you knew, because you put tunnel vision, or you put yourself in this coffin, and that's all you saw was fear, so that anything that looked like a potential threat, you blocked it off. You walled yourself off from that potential love. Notice I'm not really intending to say right or wrong. I'm just saying what is so, because all experiences you have are just neutral. they're not good or bad. It's the meaning that you give them based on the story that you make up or conclude based on that experience that determines whether it was a positive or negative. And here I'm inviting you to do this process where you're writing down all the people you dated or the most meaningful ones. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the Jewish woman I dated, and I forgot to add her to the list, but I did get so much from her too, because like the body is so beautiful and magical and wondrous, and like she saw that I was not walking straight. I was like, the muscles in my back were not strong, and I had back problems. And because of her, like adjusting my posture, and she worked with me in some Pilates type things, and my back is now straight again, and I'm holding myself so much more confidently, and I'm carrying myself so much more powerfully, and I believe in myself so much more. And I mean, that was, you deserve all of that. You deserve everything that you want. You deserve all the love that you have to share. You deserve to flow that, to give that love you are. So see how much we're getting just from me sharing each of these, whatever that is. Let's see, is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. I asked you to give me at least write down the 10 or all of the people, whatever your number is, how many people with whom you have been intimate. Make a list of all of them as a starting point, or just the meaningful relations that you have had, and to see the gifts within each one. And look at me. I mean, what we did with these 9 people, how much good has come out of this, even for you now, to believe in yourself so much more, to love so much more generously, freely, unconditionally, to get out of your head and into your heart, to experience so much more of the beauty of life, because every breath you take, you are breathing in God, and you are breathing out your fragrance of love, because every action, every interaction you have with everyone is your fragrance of love. You are giving love. So just the way you carry yourself in the world, you're spreading love. And what could be more fulfilling and meaningful and rewarding and rich than that? Because that is what you are. That's what you are here to be. You're here to shine your light as brightly as the sun. You're here to give your love fully without holding any of that back, without even worrying about, they didn't acknowledge me, they didn't validate me, they didn't tell me that I'm worth something. No, because that's internal to me, because of the simple fact that I am worthy. I deserve happiness, joy, fulfillment, well-being, peace of mind, success, prosperity, love. I deserve love. For you to boldly proclaim that to the world, to God, to life, that means you're opening to receiving that. You see how beautiful that is? You see how monumental this shift is? I want you to acknowledge that you have made that shift and you're open so much more to love. And that just feels so, so good, so right. Will you send me your essay on what this conversation has done for you? How much more loving are you now? How much more willing are you to love, to receive love, to give love without feeling afraid of being hurt? Send that to me personally, dan@danclatt.com. Will you do that? Will you also share your thoughts about all of this? share your personal story from this conversation with us in our Private Wealth Alliance. That's at operationgreatness.com/leader. I'm really inspired for the person you have become, how much more lighter you are now, how much more loving you are of yourself, and then how that is now you're like that flower, sharing your gifts, giving your love in the world so much more freely, generously, abundantly. What did you get out of making this list and seeing all of the gifts that became part of who you are as the very loving, good-hearted person you are as a result of doing this exercise? Share that with us as well in our Operation Greatness Chapter Leader Private Wealth Alliance through operationgreatness.com/leader. I'm just feeling so great about how much more loving, generous, alive you are. How much more open you are to love, and how you're not holding back or playing small or limiting love. You're flowing with life so much more fully, vibrantly. You have so much more vitality now. I mean, look at you. You're glowing. You're just so shining right now. I'm getting chills here on both arms. Look at this. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Wow. This is so fantastic. This is glorious. Thank you for playing full out with me here and sharing and being that light and not holding back or confining or restricting that flow of life, that flow of love you are. You're here to experience the deepest love ever. And now you're open to that because you know you deserve it. You know it's meant to be yours. You know it's very close. And you're no longer blocking that in any way. I'm so grateful for you. I'm celebrating you, the vibrancy, the vitality, the amount of life force you are now receiving and sharing and flowing, and it's just who you are, and it's so delicious and glorious and fantastic and wondrous and monumental. It's earth-shattering. I'm hearing that song, I've got the earth. What is it? I've got the earth moving under my feet. Something like that. Like wherever you go, you're walking on sacred ground because you are sacred and you are such a profound gift to the world. And now you're opening to that, blossoming that fully. And I'm so, so grateful for you feeling this, experiencing this, knowing this. Shining your love, sharing your light, your life, being so much more present and here now, this moment, right here now. Send me your essay on what this has done for you and how much more alive you are now. Dan@danclatt.com, and share this with us all in the Operation Greatness Private Wealth Alliance at operationgreatness.com/leader. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I would love it, by the way, if you shared this podcast, if you led every one of your online friends through receiving this gift themselves. You're giving them the gift of love. So, like if you went back to the beginning of this conversation and you shared your thoughts on each insight that we're considering here, and in each of your posts, you're linking back to this podcast, to this Operation Greatness chapter meeting, and you're actively sharing the love, how great would that feel? Because then everyone you're sharing this with, you are transforming their lives. You're loving on them. How meaningful would that be as well? So thank you for doing that. I would love for you to extend the love by sharing the love with every one of your online friends, if not everyone in your local community, through your Operation Greatness chapter, through operationgreatness.com/leader. How would that feel? And then to take all the posts that you're making and to share them with us in the Private Wealth Alliance as well through operationgreatness.com/leader, and to share that in the essay that you're sending me as well. You can spread the love so gloriously and gratefully by sharing your posts as you're watching this from the beginning. And then this video would have, this chapter meeting, this podcast would have so much more impact and meaning for you as well. It would be like sinking in at a deeper level. You can get so much more out of it the second time as you are giving the love. How wonderful would that be? Please do that and share that in the essay, what that did for you to be of so much more profound service, giving so much more love to all of your online friends by sharing your thoughts and feelings and insights and inspirations right here from our conversation right here, from you and I connecting so meaningfully, such deep quality of communing that we have been doing right here. I see you. You know that, right? I'm seeing the real you. I know how much love you have within you to give. So give it. So be it. Be that glorious, great, unconditional lover. Every moment, this is who you are, and you're flowing that. I say, this is what my lesson is, that my message is, your work is receiving God at the level of 100%, like at the same level Jesus is the example of what that is like, opening fully to God, or you could say opening fully to love, and that's your work, is opening to 100 out of 100, being 100% open to receiving God, and your purpose is extending God at that same level of 100%, and that means not holding back or playing small or limiting yourself in any way because of fear or ego. So that means opening to God, receiving God, extending God, or that means opening to the flow of love, which is infinite, and receiving that completely in your life at the level of 100% opening to love, because only then are you able to extend love, to give love, to share love, to flow with that current of love, the currency of love, which you are, like as God's instrument for miracles that you are. You're like it's called shakuhachi flute in Japan, in Japanese. You're like the hollow flute, and you're here to receive that flow 100% and not obstruct its flow in any way, and extend that flow into the world, because you're here to shine your light as brightly as the sun, unconditionally, loving everyone you are blessed to be able to serve, to lead, inspire, transform, liberate, and to love. Do that now by sharing your thoughts about everything that we've talked about here. Go back to the beginning and seriously do this. Post your thoughts on each aspect of this. Take all those posts. By writing it out yourself, you have to get very clear on what this has done for you, so you become so much more growing, blessed from how this has served you, for you to articulate that in like the posts that you're making on your social media. It has had to have been more concrete in your mind. So that's how this is transformational for you, that much more. By you writing that out, and then by you sharing that, you're giving that same gift, you're sharing the love you are with every one of your online friends, all of whom you can quickly and easily reach with no time, energy, thought, or effort. You're sharing the love. You're loving on them. You are transforming their lives. You're helping them open to that infinite love they are meant to be, to share, to shine, to exemplify, to give, how much more of a gift is this chapter meeting of our Private Wealth Alliance to you by you sharing so much more to everyone connected with you, being that source of love in their lives as their greatest contribution they have ever received. The gift that keeps on giving. And then they are doing that. They are that source of love for everyone in their lives, all of their online friends. By them sharing this, you have transformed their friends' lives. You have given your love to your online friends who are giving it to theirs, so you are loving their friends as well. You see how it's kind of like a smile. It just keeps on giving. The gift of love, the love you are, keeps on giving. So please do that and let me know what that meant for you to do in the essay you're also sending me, or is still adding to sending that to me at dan@danclatt.com. I'm so grateful for you and all the love you are. Thank you. I love you. I believe in you. I see how much of a loving, wonderful, beautiful person you are. And I'm so grateful for you being that love. Thank you very much.